Good evening, participants. I'm Aarti Bansal, Secretary to the Board of Internal Audit and Standard Management Accounting. I welcome you all to this webinar. Now I request our Vice Chairman, C.H. Charanjot Nanda sir, and Central Council member to give his opening remarks.
Sir, you're on mute. I think you need to unmute.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Sri Gaurav Mishra, the learned speaker of the day. Sri Ronak Singhi, who would take care of moderating today's session, again a very well-versed professional, deeply involved in serving the institute. Sri Aarti Bansal, the secretary to Accounting Standard Board, Auditing Internal Audit Standard Board. Aarti, you are going to become the secretary of the institute now. Mr. Arun Agarwal and Nisag from the technical team, and all members have come here to go home overnight. Ladies and gentlemen, the right perspective of understanding things and using them in perspective of providing services not only to the client or stakeholders, but to the regulators of government is pertinent in today's time. When you speak of procurement, there are so many issues that are surrounding the procurement arena. Each and every area, what has to be the areas which need to be focused, what has to be the checklist, and more importantly, what have to be the important findings and how they have to be shared with the management. Assume importance. So I will not stand between you and the learned speaker, Mr. Gaurav Mishra, and I would tell you that the board is totally inclined to hold as many programs as you intend to. I invite the membership at large to come out with any specific topic where they want guidance, and in case they want to contribute as a speaker, as a moderator, or as a writer of technical guides, they are more than welcome. So, ladies and gentlemen, I withdraw now, and I hand over the dais again to Madam Aarti Bansal, who will take the things forward. Madam, the dais is all yours now.
Thank you, sir. Now I request our moderator, C.M. Ronak Singhi, to introduce the faculty and take forward.
Yeah, thank you, Nandaji. Thank you, Aarti ma'am, for giving me this wonderful opportunity to moderating this session. I start with the introduction of our learned speaker, Mr. Gaurav Mishra. Gaurav Mishra is a manager in leading service practice in India, one of the managers in one of the leading service practice in India. He's got 6+ years of professional experience in risk-based internal audit, process improvements, and risk management services. He's been actively involved in process and controls diligence, ERM reviews, risk-based reviews, and setting up the MIS frameworks, the operational risk reviews. Key industries which he's dealt with is the mining and manufacturing, industrial manufacturing, infrastructure sector. He's a subject matter expert to carry out redesign and transformation exercises for large-scale companies. And he's carried out internal audits for leading electrical equipment companies. He's got 22 manufacturing locations pan-India. He's carried out reviews of large steel alloy companies having various locations across India. And he has designed a lot of standard operating procedures, management reporting frameworks, and dashboards for leading metal and mining clients. So we'll be happy to receive your inputs, Gaurav. Before I hand over to you, I just want to set the context for today. It's very well put by Mr. Nandaji that you need to have the right perspective from each area, right from procurement. See, I always believe just like human being has got two eyes. Two critical process on a day-to-day level is the procurement to pay process and your revenue to receivable process. And today, fortunately, we are dealing with one of the critical processes, which is procurement to pay. I always believe that there was a time where the profits were derived the sale price minus cost price, and you have the profits. Now today, your selling price is determined by your market forces. You have this the profits where your investors expect the profits, and you have the cost. Now, given this cost, you have essential area which is procurement to pay significantly sitting in that area, the cost. Now, on one hand, you have this volatile and global unstable markets where you have the currency prices, trade wars going on, rising energy cost, fluctuating key raw material prices. On the other hand, you have the budget constraints, wherein you have a budget determined for each procurement process, and you have this wherein you cannot pass on the prices to the selling. Among this all variables, we are here to discuss a very important process, which is procurement to pay. Mind you, we are not just touching upon this purchase function, we are touching on the procurement function. Now, I just take 2 minutes to explain why purchase function is just a subset of the overall procurement function. See, when you take an invoice, what you do is you go back to the purchase order. Once you have the purchase order in hand, you go back to the purchase request. You ask for whether you have called for a quotations or not, and this is the entire purchase function. Now, this is one part of the purchase function. Now, when you talk of the procurement function, it goes on which has a huge scope. Just not just starting with the basically with the purchase request. It goes on identifying needs of the organization. Now, just in today's context, just to setting the context, in today's context, we would have seen that you have companies saying that I wish to go carbon neutral, and now whether that the overall strategy decided whether that the procurement strategy is aligned to that of the global strategy. I've seen leading automobile companies calling out to the vendors that we need to cut costs given these huge fluctuations, wherein what they do is they have this combined sourcing, wherein you have the channel vendors. Okay, the parent company will authorize the sub suppliers and all that, and you have the channel vendors concept, wherein each one vendor will supply to another vendor will supply, but the vendors will always be approved by the parent company. So with this, and you have this, given this today's scenario where companies don't want to put their eggs in all one basket after this pandemic situation, they don't want to have the supply chain in one particular market, and they want to diversify the demand. I mean, for example, the procurement functions they wish to diversify, wherein they have 3-4 preferred suppliers, and then they want to distribute the demand, distribute the supply function to various vendors. Okay, with this opening remarks, and with this risk which I've enumerated, I'm sure Gaurav ji will take it forward, and we need to identify which are the areas which are auditable from this entire different areas. And with this, I hand over to Gaurav Mishra ji. We'll tune into your questions later. Over to you, Gaurav Mishra ji.
Thank you, Ronak. So first of all, I'll thanks to Chairman of Internal Standard Board and Vice Chairman Charanjot Singh Nanda sir, who always give me the opportunity, and it is my pleasure to speak as a speaker into the audit, which is one of my core area, or you can say that interesting area. And it was, as a career point of view, I was already passionate, or you can say that from the day one after qualifying CA, that yes, I want to pursue my career in IA. As rightly said by Nanda sir and Ronak, the thing is like that, we got 2 eyes. And now, rather than seeing from the front end, we have to see from the front end, back end, left and right all. So I can say that 360-degree view or approach, which is very important into the procurement to pay process. See, the procurement to pay process, although it is having a very limited, or you can say that 5 to 6 sub processes, but if I tell you in the reality, procurement to pay is one of the, you can say that itself a ocean, apart from other support functions like accounts and finance, or you can say that HR and payroll function like this. And every company says, as rightly said by Ronak, that procurement to pay and revenue to receivable, these are the 2 critical processes as of now. And it is quite correct, because paisa jahan se aa raha hai, that is very important. Management focuses more on that perspective. But the thing is, in the procurement process, the entire thing, if company saves by defining the procurement strategy, or by defining the good control or governance mechanism, if company saves 1 or 1.5% or 2% of the entire cost from the procurement itself, I think it's a big achievement for any of the company. Another company focuses more on the perspective on the cost reduction, or how you can explore the opportunity to purchase the material or services at a very cheaper rate. It will consist of different types of strategy. So if I talk about the strategy, it means that combining with the company. So in my entire discussion, so we will keep one manufacturing unit and 10 subsidiary unit. So this will be so that we can easily understand the entire process. So just taking one example, like one manufacturing company, they are based out of Mumbai, and subsidiary company is situated across India. If there are two cases. Case one is each subsidiary unit is purchasing the material and services from the plant itself. And the second scenario is entire procurement functions, or you can say that major procurement consisting of 80% of the value is being done by the corporate, or you can say that holding company. Now there will be the biggest difference in this. One plant will be having X agenda, or you can say that strategy. Y plant will be having some other strategy. Z plant will be having some other strategy. And as you also know that negotiation, it all depends upon person to person and also depends upon the designation of the person. In your organization, if there's a hierarchy like general manager, deputy general manager, assistant general manager, and the manager, negotiation done by the manager and negotiation done by the deputy general manager will not be the same. There will be two reasons. One, the understanding, or you can say that approach to negotiation. And the second part is that, yes, obviously the person who is negotiating, what is the capacity of that particular person? So first of all, in the negotiation, if I talk about, so in the negotiation, the first thing is understanding that particular concept, whether you are procuring the material or services. If you're procuring the material, whether you are having the deep understanding in terms of technicality of that particular material, usage of that particular material. If yes, then the answer will be in the next part. That if the particular person is having the detailed understanding of that particular product, vendor will always be on the lower side, because he knows that yes, particular buyer is having the quite good understanding of the product. He knows what are the components to manufacture that particular product. So he will negotiate accordingly. Now the thing is, suppose if a single material is being used at various plants, there's a high possibility in case of decentralized procurement that there will be a different rate mechanism in case of procurement. But now the thing is, suppose if the entire thing has been consolidated at the holding company, or you can say that from the corporate itself, whether the rate negotiated by the corporate will be effective as compared to rate negotiated by the plant. This is question mark. We will come to the answer at the end of this particular session. Now the thing is, there are a lot of, you can say that, governance practices. It is up to the management at what extent they want to strengthen their governance, or you can say that procurement process, how much that particular management is serious about the procurement function. Now the thing is, in my particular example, if suppose that company is being driven by, or you can say that closely monitored by promoter company, or you can say that promoter, so it is called as a promoter driven company, there will be a high possibility that people can bypass the channel defined and they will directly get the approval from the promoter. And yes, once the promoter has signed on any of the document, people must have to accept. Now the thing is, if that particular company is having a defined functions or set of governance practices. Like if you want to, you can say that procure any of the material. So there's a process. Well, first of all, the requirement planning will be done by the user department. Why they require that particular material. The second part is what quantity they require and at what time they require. So what, when, and how. These are the three questions which user department will ask at the time of procurement planning. Now the thing is, second part, suppose if this activity has been done judiciously by the user department. Now user department will raise the requisition. Now the question is, if, or you can say that at the time of material requirement planning, what factors need to be considered by the user department or that particular department who requires the material. The thing is, he will check, or that particular department will check, and what is the production quantity, how much quantity we need to produce, and from that particular quantity they will get the information from the bill of material, that is called as BOM. Suppose for manufacturing of one motor, company requires or unit requires 20 types of input with XX units. Now the thing is, user department will extract the bill of material and we'll see that what are the components required to manufacture this particular motor. So based on the BOM, they will reach at the conclusion that yes, this is the X quantity containing of 20 inputs will be required for motor manufacturing. Now the thing is, if it is a very standard type of product which is readily available in the market, particular department, or you can say that user department, will see whether there is any stock with the stores department for these particular input. If answer is yes, then he will adjust the stock situation from that particular requirement plan, subject to the condition of the lead time of the material. सपोज अगर मेरे एक मटेरियल का लीड टाइम ही 6 महीना है, मेरे पास जो आइटम स्टॉक में पड़े हुए हैं वो केवल 6 महीने के लिए है. It means what? User department will not adjust, or ideally he should not adjust that particular stock quantity from the requirement. Now the thing is, if you read out that requirement, yes, these are my requirement planning to manufacture XX product, or you can say in my example motor. Now the thing is, that particular planning department will raise the purchase requisition or request for purchase in the system by mentioning that yes, we require X material to manufacture a product and we require this material by this particular time period and this much quantity. Now the thing is, just think from the perspective, once the user department will raise the purchase requisition, the function of the sourcing or purchase department is started. So sourcing department का काम जब तक requisition planning और you can say that requirement planning नहीं आती है, sourcing department का कोई काम नहीं. Now, thing is, there are two departments. One is called as sourcing and second one is called as a buyer. The sourcing का function क्या होता है? See, what is the basic difference between sourcing and buyer? Buyer, he is the person who really buy the material, and sourcing is the person who will develop the multiple vendors do a detailed negotiation with the vendor. So this is the basic difference between the sourcing and buyer. Normally at some companies, sourcing and buyer both are the different person, but at the some company, sourcing and buyer both are the, you can say, the same person or same department. Now the thing is, commercial department will start thinking. So I have clubbed sourcing and buyer in one department and named as a commercial department. Commercial department will start sending RFQ, request for quotation, to multiple vendors. Yes, आप ये सारे मटेरियल मुझे सप्लाई करो. Now the thing will come. क्या जब मैं रिक्वेस्ट फॉर कोटेशन भेजूं, whether it will not be known to all the parties? No. The thing is, when you see, either you send a mail, suppose for X item you are having 20 vendors. So there's a two-way. Either you send one mail, one-to-one mail to all the 20 vendors, or at the same time by keeping BCC to all the vendors. So the thing is, RFQ आपने किस time पे भेजा है, that is also important. Why this particular activity is important, or you can say that why the timing is important. The timing is important just because नहीं ऐसा तो नहीं है whether the person to whom you have sent the RFQ in the last, he got the offer because you came to know that what other vendors are offering. Another thing is, post RFQ, lot of buyers or you can say lot of vendors will submit the quotations. And in quotation, they will mention all the details that what item they will require. And they will mention that, yes, this will be the packing condition, this will be warranty condition, this will be the insurance and all. Post receipt of quotation, the last date, buyer will start preparing the comparative statement to get the technical evaluation from the user department. Buyer will prepare the comparative statement and he will mention, or he or she will mention, all the details. And he will present it to the user department for getting it cleared by the user department that yes, these vendors are technically approved. But a technical approval hota क्यों? Just because we can give comfort to the user department that yes, technically you have selected this vendor. Commercially, it is my right to negotiate, but technically you have. Post preparation of comparative statement, user department will give the technical clearance that yes, these are the vendor who are technically qualified. Based on the technical clearance, commercial department will start negotiating from the vendor who is technically qualified. See, normally this process happens in the case of government tender also. Suppose आज की डेट में आपके पास गवर्नमेंट का टेंडर आता है. First of all, government will ask for the technical proposal, then the government will ask for the commercial proposal. और सबसे पहले टेक्निकल बिड ओपन होती है, फिर उसके बाद कमर्शियल बिड ओपन. Who is qualified technically and who is the L1 vendor, government will award the contract to that particular vendor. Same process will happen here also. कि आपने टेक्निकल क्वालिफाई करा लिया. Now commercial you will do a negotiation. Now the very important thing, negotiation is very important. See, you have to be very careful while negotiation. जब आप negotiate, suppose I'm just giving you one example. Let's take one example called paint. जो घर के दीवारों में लगाने वाला होता है या मशीन वाला, कोई भी पेंट लेगा. In this particular case, if you really ask from me, what is the input to manufacture paint? क्या आपके दिमाग में कभी आया था कि हाँ अगर पेंट खरीदने के लिए मुझे नेगोशिएशन करना है तो वी विल जस्ट गो बाय द रेट कार्ड? ऐसा नहीं हो सकता. सी हर एक मटेरियल, every material has their own inputs or constituents. Paint is all depend upon the crude oil. So मेरा क्रूड ऑयल का जो रेट होगा, मेरा पेंट का भी रेट उसी अकॉर्डिंग प्लस एंड माइनस होगा. करेक्ट? There's a oil which is being used at the steel plant. And I'm giving it, this is a real example. How you can add the value to the client or at your profession when you are doing the procurement to pay order. So I was just reviewing the entire purchase order of that particular oil. When I search on the Google that what is the input, what inputs required to manufacture this particular oil, Google gave me the answer that palm oil. Now the thing is, then again suddenly my mind clicked. Then I searched on the Google that yes, palm oil कहाँ पे सबसे ज़्यादा manufacture. Then after this, I came to know that yes, Singapore, the country जहाँ से palm oil आता है. Then what I did, I mapped the rate trend of that particular palm oil. In which season the trend is on the higher side and in which season the trend is on the lower side. And when I mapped the trend this trend of that particular oil which is being procured from Singapore, I came to know that yes, when the rate of palm oil was on the higher side, company procured higher material. Then I suggested that yes, material requirement planning should be like this. At least you should know your requirement in advance at least a quarter. Well, in this case, the client was really surprised that yes, how he can give this in. See, this is the value addition when you can give to your client into the product. See, एक मोबाइल मुझे खरीदना है, उस मोबाइल को मैं जाकर के 4 दुकानों में जाके कोटेशन लेकर के आऊंगा. This is a very traditional approach. You have to see that what are the inputs required to manufacture the mobile. Suppose it's a one component and that particular cost is being increased on a month-to-month basis. In this case, it means that जैसे ही उस प्रोडक्ट का मार्केट बढ़ेगा, उस प्रोडक्ट की कॉस्ट बढ़ेगी, मेरा मोबाइल भी महंगा होगा. Now the thing is, you have to plan. यार ये आइटम मेरा महंगा हो रहा है, अब मुझे इसको कैसे प्लान करना है. So this is the thing how you can give them. I'm just giving you one more. Why I am focusing on the negotiation. The best part is this: even if you can save 0.1% of the total expenses to the company, this is a big value to the client. Correct. Just giving you one more example. Let's take job for the fabrication. Suppose एक कंपनी है जिसका काम है फर्नीचर में डील करना, and you went for audit in that particular furniture manufacturing company. The thing is, what you will see, what you will think. लकड़ी कितने में खरीदी बस. सी कंपनी का काम है टेबल सोफा ये सारी चीजें बना. So see, the angle how if I will be at your place, how I will. I will see that which type of wood company require, pine wood or jungle wood or which type of. सपोज मैंने एग्जांपल लिया कि जंगल वुड या पाइन वुड, ठीक है। नाउ द थिंग इज, सोफा के ऊपर या टेबल के ऊपर एक प्लाई भी लगती है। नॉर्मली जो प्लाई वुड होता है दैट विल बी अफिक्स थ्रू ग्लू, एक स्पेशल टाइप का फेविकोल होता है। इफ आई लिटरली नेगोशिएट, आई विल सी दैट 5x5 के टेबल को बनाने के लिए मुझे कितनी लकड़ी चाहिए होगी, मेरा कितना प्लाई लगेगा, मेरा ग्लू कितना लगेगा, और 5x5 के टेबल को बनाने के लिए कितना मैन पावर। सपोज इफ आई हैव प्रिपेयर्ड दिस इंटरनल कॉस्ट and that cost sheet is ready with me, I can negotiate at any time with the vendor and I see, you sit with us and you just tell that how much quantity for one, for production of the, or you can say that manufacturing of one table, तुम बताओ कि तुमको कितना कितना क्वांटिटी ये सारे इनपुट्स लगेंगे। vendor will surprise, not a vendor will surprise. This is the level of negotiation. This is the level of negotiation what the buyer is doing. You will win the per edge. So this is called as negotiation. Asking for 3 quotations, getting the approvals from the top management is a very traditional approach. You have to think from the input component perspective, from the perspective of the component. That what component you require. कि अगर आप एक लैपटॉप लेने जाते हो, लैपटॉप की प्राइस अगर 80,000 होती है, उसका जो बिल ऑफ मटेरियल जब किस एचपी ने लैपटॉप बनाए होंगे तो उसके बॉम में तो लिखा होगा ना कि एक लैपटॉप को बनाने के लिए कीबोर्ड भी चाहिए होता है, फिर मदरबोर्ड चाहिए होगा, फिर ये केबल चाहिए होगा, फिर वो केबल चाहिए होगा। This will require. This is the thing how you will think from the perspective of the negotiation. Now entire negotiation done. Okay. Now the thing is, after negotiation, you will see who is the L1 vendor. Okay. L1 vendor के केस में अब आपने क्या किया? You will prepare a purchase order and you will mention all the terms and conditions and you will send it to the vendor. And you will communicate to the vendor in a written that is, this is the final price what he agreed. So that at the end of, at the time of the delivery, vendor should not buy back. नहीं मैं आपको offer material deliver कर रही हूँ because price agreed. Now the thing is, after negotiation and after purchase order, what are things which is required? See, purchase order is a non-financial right. We need to understand from this perspective also. In this case, you need to mention all the critical terms and conditions. The insurance is applicable, what is the input terms, who will pay the freight, who will bear the transit loss, code of conduct, general terms and conditions. All the things are there. You need to check that और क्या क्या चीजें हम incorporate कर सकते हैं to get the better delivery services from the vendor. Next thing is purchase order. At some period of time, you will receive the material from the vendor. And there's a process called good receipt note. जब वो फैक्ट्री के गेट पे आएगा, स्टोर्स डिपार्टमेंट प्रिपेयर करेगा गुड्स रिसीट नोट, जिसको हम लोग GRN बोलते हैं। बात आती है कि सर परचेज ऑर्डर तो आपके नॉन फाइनेंशियल डॉक्यूमेंट, परचेज रिक्विजिशन कौन सा डॉक्यूमेंट है, whether it's a financial or non-financial. Under which category you will categorize purchase requisition as a financial or non-financial? The answer will be given by the audience. I'll tell you later on. Now the thing is GRN, goods receipt note. Goods receipt note. The stores will prepare the goods receipt note. Again, you have to think from accounting perspective. What time the inventory will hit in our book? हमने goods receive कर लिया, तो ठीक है, goods तो receive किया. And what stores department will check? Stores department will check that whatever the material mentioned into the purchase order, whether the material is same or not. You will see only the physical inspection and the count. Quality will be ensured either by the quality department at time of incoming or by the user department. So once the user department has prepared the stores department, the GRN will be moved into the bucket of the quality or user department. The material which requires the quality inspection, in this particular case, that will be inspected by the quality department. But if something requires the technical clearance from the user department, like motor and all, the product which doesn't involve any chemical composition and all, user department will say, yes, there is no damage in the post clearance by the user department. Now finally, the material has been received. Now the question comes, at what point of time inventory will hit in the books? Whether at time of preparation of GRN or post clearance of the quality. Now the thing is, अब तो आ गया ये काम, अब तो भाई हम सीए हैं, अब किसके पास काम आएगा? हमारे पास आएगा जो फाइनेंस अकाउंट हैंडल। Now the entire invoice will be processed of the vendor by the finance department. Now the finance department, what they will do? They will just review the bill and whether it is complying the purchase order terms and conditions or not. They will pass the vendor bill, and after vendor bill at the due date, the payment will be done, and the part is account reconciliation. Last part, at the end of the year, the transaction is on the regular basis. We will perform a account reconciliation, and at the last, we will perform vendor performance evaluation, whether the quality of the product is right, delivery of the product is within the time, there is no further customer complaint. So this is the overview. I have said you the overview that how the entire procurement function will be done. Now the thing is, there are a lot of companies I know into the market whose entire procurement function is automated, and those companies are into the market having a cap size of, you can say that 70,000, 80,000 crores. Now you should understand, if all the procurement function is automated, then उस केस में negotiation क्या होगा? This is one of the very interesting things. I'll come to this particular part when I'll come to the negotiation part. There are a lot of companies who are operating their sourcing function, or you can say that procurement functions, with a limited manpower availability just because they have automated the entire. Planning can be done by the system. RFQ can be sent by the system. Negotiation can be done by the system. It is quite possible, not impossible. And it is actually happening. Your GRN can be done by the system. Your invoice can be done by the system. सर तो सोर्सिंग वाले का काम किया नहीं, काफी ऐसे फंक्शंस होते हैं तो छोटे छोटी वैल्यूज की प्रोक्योरमेंट वहां पे तो जरूरत पड़ती है. See, my motive is to just to tell that yes, entire procurement functions can be automated. So you should think from that perspective. So let me just present my screen. I think it's visible to everyone.
Yes, Gaurav, it's visible.
Yes. So this is the, you can say that functions. This is the entire thing which I was saying about this, the overview of the entire procurement to pay process. Supplier analysis and management, purchase. So supplier analysis and management, it is basically talking about the vendor development process. Then it's a process requisition, or you can say that purchase requisition. Then processing of purchase order. Then submitting orders, manage goods and services, where GRN or something like this, quality inspection, then process invoice, then processing of the payment. Starting के पेरा vendor development से लेकर के फिर issuance of the purchase order. It will form as a part of, you can say that, ordering process. Then manage goods and services. And the last part is payment process. So this is again on the theoretical parts, like what is procurement? Procurement is the acquisition of the goods and services at the best possible cost. And this is the thing, best possible cost, which I was saying or focusing more on the part that how to do the negotiation. Right quantity and quality at the right time, in the right place. The procurement function is the origin of the supply chain for any organization. This is the component of the procurement. So like first part is procurement planning. Second part is vendor management. Third part is requisitioning, material procurement planning मैंने आपको बताया कि कैसे करना है. Next part is receiving and warehousing. And last part is invoice processing and payment. And the last part is, you can say, vendor performance evaluation. See, in procurement planning, as a governance, or you can say that best practices, we will prepare the procurement budget at the start of the year. That is, this is, and how the procurement budget is being prepared. This is being prepared based on the sales plan. The procurement budget will be prepared, and based on that, entire procurement planning will be done. And whatever variances are there, the planning team will justify that yes, this is the reason for the variance. Now the vendor management. Vendor management includes the development of the vendor also. In this particular case, the vendor will be developed into the market so that you can get the quotations from the multiple vendors and you can negotiate for the best availability of the price. Another thing is this vendor management also includes the vendor performance evaluation. At the end of, अगर आप किसी vendor के साथ में business कर रहे हैं, so there's a quite high and you want to continue with that particular vendor. So the question is whether you want to evaluate the performance of that particular vendor or not. So yes, the vendor performance evaluation will be done. And based on that, suppose if for X material, there are 20 vendors. And in company's criteria from the delivery, from the cost, from the price, from the quality, from all these 4 or 5 factors, if suppose 10 vendors able to meet the criteria, then organization will continue the business with these 10 vendors only. Requisition and purchasing, I have already said that yes, what is the purchase requisition, bid evaluation. So bid, I'll come to that particular part, which is very important. Authority matrix is called as a delegation of authority. Receiving and warehousing, invoice processing, and payables. There are some essential, or you can say that very common terminology, which is frequently used into the procurement of import. PR, purchase requisition, or you can say that indent bhi isko bolte hain, and that is being raised by the user department. PO is the purchase order. GRN is the goods receipt note, or GIN means goods inward note. Invoice is again that particular invoice where the amount and all taxation, all these things will be mentioned. Bill of material or bill of quantity. That is very important because in case of the planning of any procurement of the material, that BOM is very important. And if the company is not having the formal BOM, but ultimately user department will know that what the inputs they require to manufacture this. Request for quotation. RFQ. Communication sent by the procurement department of the companies verifying item requirements, inviting interested vendors to send quotes. MRP is the material requirement planning. Normally it is automated into the system. Annual rate contract. Annual rate contract hota kya hai? Suppose very C class of item or a continuous service where rates will not fluctuate or will fluctuate but a very few times. In this particular case, company will prefer to enter into the annual rate of contract to avoid multiple issuance of the ARC. And now this is again the procurement. So as rightly said that yes, direct procurement and indirect procurement. Direct procurement, you can say that At yes, which directly impact to the production. Indirect procurement means that any services which will not impact to the production, that is necessary. Direct procurement, if I see, so this is one of the, you can say that is standard, that क्या quantity होती है, and direct procurement is like this. This is one of the, you can say that hierarchy I have tried to mention, that yes, head of the material management, procurement committee. So normally procurement committee involves with a large value of the procurement result. Otherwise, everything will be solved at the level of head of the procurement itself. This is again the public procurement. This is applicable when you are having your customer as a government. So like any company who is supplying to railway, who is supplying to power corporation, they have to follow the rules and regulations, or you can say that vendor approval and the quality inspection as per the government guidelines or government organization guidelines. This is the procurement planning. So like कैसे होता है? सबसे पहले sales होता है. मैंने आपको already बोला था. So that entire planning will be done. Budget, how we prepare the budget? So we prepare the budget based on the sales. That yes, if we want to achieve the sales of 3 lakh units, that what are the basic requirements? This will be like this only. So we will follow the backward approach rather than the forward approach. So based on the sales plan, the company will decide the production plan or maintenance plan, and based on that, the procurement budget, you can say that procurement budget will be prepared, and based on the procurement budget, depend upon the lead time of that particular product, and based on that particular BOM or consumption level, entire procurement planning will be done. So if you see, the thing is that based on the sales plan, based on the production plan, based on the procurement budget, lead time. See, user department is considering the BOM also, user department is considering current inventory level also. And then they prepare the procurement plan, then they get it approved of the materials of procurement. Then if there is any reason, then they will revise the entire procurement planning and they will submit the balance with the justification. This is the gap. So this is the ideal scenario I have tried to mention here, that what are the ideal risks involved here. What is the ideal risk involved here in case of procurement planning? So we understood that yes, what is the procurement planning, what is the vendor management, what is the requisition, receivings, and warehouse. But I tried to mention here that yes, these are the common risks which is required, or you can say that which exists into the particular. Not just allow me for a 30 second. I'm getting one of the important. Just
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So now the thing is, if you see that, what is the, you can say that, what is the risk? So like the control is, company policy defines procedures for formulation and approval of the procurement plan. The procurement plan is reviewed and approved by the designated authority. And there's a periodic review to check revisions to procurement plan aligned with changes made to production plan. Periodic reviews of procurement plan to analyze actual versus planned purchase. Periodic reviews of procurement plan to analyze actual versus planned purchase. High expenses or capital purchase are checked against the procurement budget. So this is the common control. This is the common control. You can say that, yes, this is the control required. This is the control required for best procurement plan. This is the risk. Inaccurate or incomplete projections in the procurement plan. Yes, the user department procurement planning kar raha hai. And if they are not considering that, yes, what is the existing situation, what are the inputs required as per the BOM and all, and they are not getting the approvals from the appropriate authority, this is one of the major risks into the procurement. Procurement planning, yes. And if there is any open purchase order, that yes, suppose if as on date, today is 6th September, today is 6th September, and if today we are doing the procurement planning, we need to consider as a user department that, yes, what are the open purchase orders? So we will, you can say that, so you can say that, yes, whether we have considered or not. If we have not considered any of the open purchase orders, and we are doing the, you can say that emergency purchase, this is one of the gap into the procurement. So this is one of the observations that, yes, how we need to write the observations if we are doing the audit for the procurement. Now the part is vendor management, vendor empanelment, selection and empanelment. अच्छा vendor select कैसे करते हैं? There are two parts. Either buyer knows the vendor into the market, or someone will refer the vendor into the market, or buyer will search from the Google. Buyer will share the, you can say that, publish or notice into the, you can say that, in the letter, newspaper. And based on all these sources, buyer will select that, yes, these are the vendors. Buyer will evaluate ability as well as the feasibility of that particular vendor. अब वो कैसे करेगा? By visiting to the plant, by knowing their processes, that yes, and इसके बाद क्या करेगा? Vendor को onboard करेगा. When at time of onboarding of the vendor, they will obtain multiple, you can say that, they will obtain that they will obtain the multiple documents like KYC document, their business document and all. If there's a company, then memorandum, article, director details, then background check and all, then they will onboard the vendor. So this is the thing. So this is the entire structure, how do the entire things, correct? And कभी कभी क्या होता है कि अगर कोई क्रिटिकल मटेरियल्स के लिए हम लोग वेंडर सर्च कर रहे होते हैं, in these cases normally we perform the vendor performance at starting level itself, that how the entire process is, so the quality processes, whether they are having the good credentials or not. This is, you can say that, pre-onboarding evaluation. That is also one part of the performance evaluation. Now the part is about the tender. That yes, after vendor development, it comes to the part of the negotiation. How the entire negotiation will happen. The entire negotiation will happen. You can say that yes, now the entire negotiation will happen. The negotiation will happen based on the tender. So see, this is called that reverse bidding and forward bidding. फॉरवर्ड बिडिंग में क्या होता है, जब आप टेंडर बिड कर रहे हो तो आप लोग बताओगे कि मेरी ये कॉस्टिंग आएगी, मैं इस वैल्यू पे बिडिंग कर रहा हूं, आई एम बिडिंग एट दिस पर्टिकुलर कॉस्ट और वैल्यू. नाउ द थिंग इज विच इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, रिवर्स बिडिंग क्या होता है. आफ्टर यू डिड द फॉरवर्ड बिडिंग, you will be able to know that yes, Mr. X quoted है 100 रुपए, Mr. Y quoted 1000 rupees, Mr. Z quoted or you can say that 200 rupees, and like this only.
Hello, Gaurav. I think
Now the thing is, sorry. So this is called as a forward bidding. If you able now you came to know that yes, you can say that this is or you can say that yeah, this is the price. Now organization will ask or buyer will ask, this is my last price. Now you have to achieve that particular cost. Or suppose if the buyer will not ask, now buyer will say that please share your reverse cost, or you can say that walk away price or negotiable price. This is called as a reverse bidding. And now reverse bidding is very important, or you can say the very common in all the organizations. People follow this type of strategy for the purpose of negotiation. So this is again, you can say that what is the reverse auction and all, what is the benefit. Yes, no doubt, अगर auction आप करते हो तो आप system पे करोगे. System पे, if you will do the auction into the system, you can say that there will be no manual intervention. Entire things will be driven by the system. What is the gap? Control क्या? यहाँ पे controls क्या होंगे? Company policies and procedures define the criteria for evaluating vendors and minimum criteria that the vendor has to meet for empanelment. And अगर company के पास में ये चीजें नहीं है तो this is so the control. If you reverse the control in the negative side, so again the going to the risk. Suppose this company is not having any of the policies and procedures for vendor evaluation, it means that you can onboard any of the vendor based on your pick and choose model. Dependency on the single source vendor, if you will not develop the vendor. So that's why organization prefers to have multiple vendor rather than single vendor. So yes, only in case of a OEM, or you can say that very limited cases where the quality is of the utmost issues, in those cases only you can have the single vendor. But there should be a justification that yes, why there should be a single source vendor. And again, the list is that you have not maintained the panel vendor list and all those things. And you have to see that yes, this is the approved vendor list, and you have to give the preference to that particular. So this is again the vendor management की कैसे होता है. हमने चार्ट बनाया हुआ है just to quickly understand that how the entire thing governs. This already I have told to you. Now the part comes requisition and purchasing. See how the entire information. So stores department, this is the current inventory level, and then material requirement planning based on यूजर डिपार्टमेंट XYZ क्या करेगा, एक रिक्वायरमेंट बनाएगा, रिक्वायरमेंट प्लानिंग, उसमें करंट इन्वेंट्री लेवल को देखेगा एंड उसके बाद वो परचेज रिक्वेजिशन रेज करेगा। परचेज रिक्वेजिशन जब वो रेज करेगा, दैट विल बी approved by some one person or some person who is you can say that authority as per the delegation of authority matrix or rules of procedure. Then that particular PR will go to the commercial department. See, what is the control? मैंने gap बोला, PR is not prepared in a standardized format. Like the PR, a standard PR should consist of that what type of material you require, the specification of the material, the quantity of the material, timing at what time you require the material. This is the standard format. Whether you have mentioned all these things into the PR or not, this is again going to be one of the gap. Lack of budgetary control over PR. Suppose आपके यहाँ पे सिस्टम है, बट यो सिस्टम में आपके पास कोई बजटरी कंट्रोल नहीं है। आपने बोला कि मेंटेनेंस डिपार्टमेंट को हमने 1 लाख रुपए का बजट एलोकेट किया। नाउ द थिंग इज योर सिस्टम शुड बी लाइक दिस, एट टाइम ऑफ रेजिंग ऑफ द PR सिस्टम शुड शो what is the amount of the budget which remains in the system, that yes, you have utilized 90,000 and you have balance only 10,000. If you are having this type of control, your system will itself restrict user department to raise the PR. Then again, the entire, suppose अगर वो exceed करता और material चाहिए, तो उस केस में क्या होगा, they have to go back, they have to prepare the justification note and all, they have to get the approval. This is the better control, and this is again going to one of the risks. Absence of segregation of authority or PR not approved as per. कॉमर्शियल डिपार्टमेंट ही आपका नेगोशिएशन भी करता है, ऑर्डरिंग प्रोसेस में भी इन्वॉल्व है, और कॉमर्शियल डिपार्टमेंट ही आपका किसमें इन्वॉल्व है, PR रेजिंग में इन्वॉल्व है। So in this case, what the thing happen? लोग करते क्या, मेरे को मटेरियल चाहिए ना, मैं क्या करूंगा, एक बार में नहीं मंगाऊंगा। मुझे पता है कि मुझे 10 लाख की मटेरियल के लिए मुझे GM के पास अप्रूवल के लिए जाना है, 5 लाख के लिए मुझे फाइनेंस हेड के पास जाना है, 4 लाख रुपए तक का है तो सोर्सिंग हेड से करा लूंगा, एंड अगर उससे बिलो तक का है तो मेरा जो मैनेजर। So avoid getting the approval from the GM or you can say that sourcing head. I'll raise the multiple POs for the same material for the same vendor. As of now, these things are very less because systems are quite well at a lot of, you can say that if you talk from me that comparison of the 5 years, last 5 years versus this year. So I think a lot of controls, at least at most of the entity, these controls are well in place. This we already discussed that yes, purchase requisition, then procurement, then RFQ, then vendors. Vendor के बाद में वो quotation submit करेगा, then after quotation submission के बाद में procurement committee के पास में जाएगा, या जो भी delegation of authority matrix में लिखा है उनके पास जाएगा. Now the thing is, yes, bid evaluation होगा, reverse bidding हो गया तो उसके through होकर के then वो purchase order बनेगा. Now the thing is, there's a very common issues that yes, people used to create multiple POs into the system to avoid the approval from the higher authority. This is called as a split PO. And this is very, very important issues which happens with most of the organization. And entities should have to ensure that how these cases of split issues can be ignored. So that RFQ uniform नहीं है. See, RFQ जब आप भेजते हो तो आपको भेजना चाहिए as a standard RFQ क्या होना चाहिए, कि कौन सा मटेरियल आपको चाहिए, which type of material you require, what is the specification, what is the quantity, what is the last date to submit the RFQ, whether you require the packing, what are the conditions for packing, what is the Incoterms you require, and what is some other conditions. This is the standard format, you can say that, for RFQ. If these things are mentioned, I think then vendor will not make any mistake while submitting quotation. Quotation comparison not documented. Company policy defines formats for bid evaluation summary and procedures for preparing it. Authorized signatory उसको करता है review, then PO does not include the standard terms and conditions, which I have already told you in the initial, at the time of setting the content, that how the standard terms and conditions are important. You can check it from the Google itself, because there are a lot of standard terms and conditions available to the Google itself. Yeah, delayed purchase. What is the delayed purchase? See, आपने क्या किया, आपकी एक हैबिट हो गई कि मैं पीआर सबसे लास्ट में रेस करूंगा, मेरा पीओ भी सबसे लास्ट में बनेगा. To avoid all these rushes, I'll just make the emergency purchase. I'll call to the vendor that, yes, Mr. Vendor, please supply X material at my plant. And post that, I'll get it regularized from the sourcing head that, yes, emergency थी इसके लिए हमने मंगा लिया. Emergency purchase can happen at the plant, but for a few cases. But if it becomes the habit, I think this is again going to be the lapse of the control. Why there's a huge emergency purchase. ये हमने पढ़ लिया है. Receiving and warehousing. See, gate pass is, again, you can say that gate entry is a non-financial document. Tally sheet is nothing but where the checklist is there. Good receipt, no. The answer is up to you. You have to tell me that good receipt note is a financial document or non-financial document. गुड रिसिप्ट नोट में आया, इन्वेंटरी लेजर में चला गया, बट इसके पीछे एक कॉन्सेप्ट कि मेरा गुड्स क्वालिटी इंस्पेक्शन में जाता है, फिर उसके बाद वो इन्वेंटरी लेजर में हिट होता है. इन दिस केस यू हैव टू आंसर वेदर इन्वेंटरी विल हिट एट टाइम ऑफ GRM preparation or at time of quality. Here the risk will be that, yes, at time of the preparation of GRM, the physical checks have not been conducted. Inventory has been recorded at a very incorrect value or with the incorrect quantity. GRN has been required. You can say that GRN has been prepared at the incorrect quantity. So these are the things. Then quality check. Then again the bin card जाएगा कि bin card में कि कौन से अलमीरा में या कौन से प्लेस पे उसको जाना है. Gate entry not done at time of allowing entry into the premises. Yeah, that is very important. See, for any of the manufacturing plant, the gate entry is very important. Entity has to ensure that, yes, this is the control. Means this is the control required for allowing any vehicle into the plant. अगर आपके पास गेट पे कोई कंट्रोल है नहीं, कल को कोई भी ट्रक आती है आपके पास में, and they can carry any of the, or you can say they can bring the illegal material also into the plant. So we need to see how the entire, you can say that, what is the control? Company policy defines procedures for receiving material at recording receipt. Security guard does not prepare the permit entry of the truck into the premises. IT system does not permit creation of the GRN without the gate entry. This should be the control. And if these control are there, it means that there's a checkpoint at the gate entry also. This is the risk, or you can say that control. The risk is good received not as per PO. उसके अगेंस्ट में क्या क्या कंट्रोल होना चाहिए वो हमने यहाँ पे मेंशन किया हुआ. That receiving officer is responsible for checking specification of the goods received. IT system restrict receipt of material other than mentioned in the PO. Means at times of the preparation of GRM, you can accept the material which is mentioned into the PO. The material which is not mentioned in the PO, system will not allow to accept. Why this control is important? They will restrict, this control will restrict receipt of unauthorized material. Would receipt without PO, if the control is there that, yes, you have to prepare PR, then PO, then GRM, it means that without PO, you cannot prepare the GRM. Now, the very important concept is three-way match. In the procurement to pay process, the three-way match is very common. What is the three-way match? Three-way match is like the PR should be there. PO cannot be more than the PR quantity. GRN cannot be more than the PO quantity, and your invoicing cannot be more than the GRN quantity. But what about the amount? What about the freight? Yes, freight and some other hidden charges like demurrage and all that can be passed at time of invoice. But quantity and rate cannot exceed beyond the PO. This is the golden rule for three-way match. This again, we have already read it that yes, what is the control? See, अगर आपके पास गाड़ी प्लांट के अंदर आ गई है, you have received the gate entry has been recorded on, you can say, the 1st of September, but as on date, GRN has not been prepared. What is the impact? The impact is on the inventory. Your inventory will not be recorded till that time GRN is not there. Correct? Yes, correct. So this is again one of the very important controls. This part comes, which is the last part, invoice processing and papers. So एक बार GRN मेरा हो गया, स्टोर ने GRN कर दिया, यूजर डिपार्टमेंट ने इंस्पेक्शन कर दिया एंड क्वालिटी ने इंस्पेक्शन. Now the invoice will come to the finance department for processing. फाइनेंस डिपार्टमेंट क्या करेगा? उस चीज को प्रोसेस करने के लिए वो देखेगा कि परचेस whether the terms and conditions mentioned into the purchase order is meeting the criteria or not. If it is mentioned and if everyone has given the clearance, finance department will book the invoice. And again, there's a control gap that yes, GRN has been prepared, but there's a delay in booking of the invoices. What it means? It means that there's a delay in creation of the vendor liability. There's going, you can say that delay in creation of the vendor liability. And if there's a delay in creation of the vendor liability, it impacts the payment to the vendor. Because vendor ने आपको बोला कि मेरा due date 30 दिन का है. In this particular case, the thing is which is very important that you can say gate entry has been done on 1st, but invoice has been booked on 15th. Your due date will start on the 1st of the day. Say example 1st of September. बट आपने बिल कब बुक किया? आपने 15 सितंबर को बुक किया. लाइबिलिटी तो आपको 15 सितंबर को जाके पता चली, जो कि लाइबिलिटी आपको पता चलने वाली थी पहले ही. So this is again going to be one of the risks. And if you have booked the invoice, there's a maker checker control that yes, the person who is booking the invoice cannot be the approver of that particular invoice. Why this control is important? Just to ensure that yes, there should not be any gap, or you can say that difference in the invoice amount vis-a-vis you can say that our Miro invoice or our booking invoice. After booking of the invoice, payment will be done based on the due date. There should be a control that no payment should be done beyond the due date. Now the thing is which is very important that अब तो ये हो गया, अब क्या होगा? पेमेंट. कभी कभी हो सकता है ऐसा, कभी कभी ऐसा हो सकता है that yes, आपका मेकर चेकर कंट्रोल भी था, बट पेमेंट वेंडर को गलत अकाउंट दे दिया गया. How this can happen? This can be happen if there is an inadequate control in modifying the vendor master. Suppose ट्रेजरी डिपार्टमेंट पेमेंट करता है और ट्रेजरी डिपार्टमेंट के पास है कि वो वेंडर के अकाउंट में जाके उसका बैंक डिटेल चेंज कर सकता है, या इनवॉइस बुक करने वाला पर्सन बैंक अकाउंट चेंज कर सकता है. In this case, there's a high possibility or a high probability that payment can be done in the wrong account. This is the fraud control. This is the fraud risk. But these things are not happening, or you can say that people avoid to happen all these things. But yes, अगर मुझे fraud करना है, किसी को भी fraud करना है. See, if some employee want to do a fraud, they can do the fraud like this. This is again the gap what I have told to you. Inaccurate invoice processing, I have already told that yes. What is the inaccurate invoice processing? Goods or services received not accounted for in the financial statement. So like मैंने आपको बोला कि आपने GRN बना दिया है but उससे वेंडर की लायबिलिटी आपने क्रिएट नहीं की है. This is again going to be one of the risks आपके फाइनेंशियल्स में गलत impact. Unauthorized or inaccurate payment to vendors. डिले पेमेंट टू वेंडर्स हमने बोल ही दिया. MSME के केस में क्या होगा कि अगर आपका 45 डेज है, योर सिस्टम शुड गिव अ पॉपअप और शुड गिव अ रिपोर्ट दैट दीज आर द वेंडर्स व्हिच इज MSME एंड देयर पेमेंट इज बीइंग ड्यू इन नेक्स्ट 45 डेज. एंड अगर आप उसको 45 डेज के अंदर पेमेंट नहीं करते हो, एंड इफ देयर इज नो डिस्प्यूट, यू हैव टू क्रिएट प्रोविजंस as per the books and you have to declare with the MCA. Cash discount not availed, I have already said कि इनवॉइस बुक आप जब करते हो तो उस टाइम पे क्या क्या कंट्रोल होना चाहिए. Invoice paid to the vendor not settled. Why this is important? This is important कि अगर आपने बिल भी बुक कर दिया, उसका इनवॉइस भी पे कर दिया, अब क्या होगा यार? तभी होगा जब आप उसकी एजिंग कैलकुलेट करोगे ना कि मेरे कितने ऐसे वेंडर्स हैं जिनका 30 दिन से ऊपर का पेमेंट पेंडिंग है, 60 दिन से ऊपर का पेमेंट पेंडिंग है, 90 डेज से ऊपर का पेमेंट पेंडिंग. You will not get the clear picture from that particular report. Inaccurate accounting of payment, I have already told you. This is this. What are the common checks that we need to perform in the vendor master? So like in the vendor master, you can say that multiple codes for the same vendor. Then again, incomplete details captured in the vendor master, inactive vendors, single vendor, items without vendor setup, purchase requisition में क्या क्या data analytics हो सकती है. So these are the illustrative list, not the exhaustive list. This is again the data analytics which is required at time of the purchase order, that yes, what Ronak said at the starting, that yes, there are a lot of companies, subsidiary company and holding is there. And if there's a concept, there is no concept of clubbing all the procurement at one place, which is common. So again, this is one of the big risks. And ये होता है. The splitting of the POs, PO quantity and all those things. So these are the things which is very important. रिसीट के टाइम पे क्या क्या कंट्रोल्स होते हैं? This is the data analytics checks which is required at time of the receipt and quality checks. What are the controls which is required for the inventory? That yes, inventory aging analysis should be there. Then you can say that the thing which is very important, that issue of the goods without considering the FIFO principles, goods procured and received but not consumed. हमने मिनिमम स्टॉक या रीऑर्डर लेवल के स्टॉक को मेंटेन नहीं किया हुआ है. मेरा इन्वेंट्री का जो लेवल है वो काफी ज्यादा है एज पर द कन्वेंशन पैटर्न. अकाउंट्स पेबल में क्या क्या चीजें वो हमने आपको पहले ही रिस्क में डिस्कस किया है. सो दीज आर द थिंग्स व्हिच वी हैव ऑलरेडी डिस्कस्ड. And now the very important thing is access right. In the case of access right, that yes, so by let me give the example. Vendor master, the person who is having the right to create vendor masters should not have the right to update the vendor master. Person who is having the right to you can say that book the invoice should not have the right to amend the vendor master. Maker and checker cannot be the same person. If any employee has been left, whether the access has been removed or not, whether the same department is not having the conflicting, मतलब जो PO बना रहा है उसको GRN के भी राइट हो, जो GRN बना रहा है उसको क्वालिटी इंस्पेक्शन का भी राइट हो, जो प्रोडक्शन कर रहा है, प्रोडक्शन कंजम्पशन कर रहा है, उसको भी क्वालिटी इंस्पेक्शन के राइट हो. So these rights should be reviewed as part of the data analytics. Why this is important? कि अगर मैं ही बना रहा हूँ PO और मैं ही बना रहा हूँ GRN, I can make mistake. मेरा इंटेंशन गलत भी हो सकता है कि नहीं ठीक है मेरा क्वांटिटी कम है बट मैं जेन्युइन क्वांटिटी से कर रहा हूँ. So this is the thing which is very important. So I think I have tried to summarize the entire things in a very short hours, or you can say that in a 1 hour 30 minutes. But to the extent I have shared, these are the very common things, or you can say that very important things at time of procurement, review of the procurement to pay process.
Thank you Gaurav, for this enlightening session. I request viewers to have post their questions. I mean, I think Gaurav, I think I just have to compliment you with respect to we got around 8 feedbacks, varied out of 8. 7 of them have asked for the PPT. So I think it's for the organizers to ensure that the PPT reaches to the end user who's watching this.
I'll share. Yes, I'll share with the organization.
Definitely. And one question is there from Mr. Devnash Kakolia. Okay. His question is when you were touching the point of the, basically you were touching on the time of negotiations. So his question is, what do you do when the vendor or the supplier has a high bargaining power? Like in generally, when you are touching the level of negotiations, wherein you ask for the components perspective, input required during the time of manufacture and all that. At that time, what do you do when there is a situation where vendor has a high bargaining power? So general, I mean, how according to you, how do you deal with that
See,
situation?
yes. Now the thing is, so let's take one example. I'll not name the company. Okay. So it's a very real example. So recently I have observed. So the thing is, when the vendor will be having a high bargaining, the thing is, when he's seeing or he feels that the buyer is not having the enough understanding about the product. This is first thing. The second part, he is the only player, or you can say that there are 2 3 other vendors are available, but they are not having that type of product quality. And these are the 2 cases. Basically, these are the 2 cases where vendor will be having a high bargaining power. And the third part, which is very important, on the quantity. How much quantity you want to bargain? See, suppose if the company which is manufacturing motor and they want to procure the steel from the JSW. See, JSW will always be having a high bargaining power because there will be a lot of other companies to whom they are supplying. They will focus more on the 80% sales rather than on the 20% sales. Now it is up to you that at what best price. See, in this circumstance, you cannot you can say that very exclusive to the vendor very last level. But yes, if you are having enough understanding of the market of the product, I think then in that case you can negotiate, but not at a larger extent what you can do with the other vendors.
Very rightly put,
So
Gaurav.
like
I
I'm
think
just giving one example
exactly.
also. So like uh, alloy steel. So suppose if I'm procuring the alloy steel, okay, this is very good example. You know the market rate of the carbon steel. You know that what is the alloy that has been used in this particular steel. And if you did the costing based on the market index, because these type of steel always be having a market edge. It all
Correct.
depends upon the market, how the market drives.
Mm-hmm.
So if you did this type of analytics, I think you can talk to the vendor and you can negotiate at the best level.
Yes, related to add to what you said. You said 2 points. One, I mean, neither the person who's buying the product has a good knowledge. The second is the quantity of how much quantity of bargain. And you said you very rightly pointed out on the product differentiation. Sometimes it might you might have to look into whether you have a substitute for that product or not, or whether there is a high switching
Correct.
cost if I have to choose a switch from this
Definitely,
product
correct.
to another product. So that kind of analysis that requires needs to be done. I mean, generally in extreme cases, you go back integrating backwards also. So with this, I think I'll just see if there are any questions. Okay, there are no more questions, Gaurav. I think it was a very lively session. I just have to key takeaways. I've tried to just summarize. First of all, thank you so much for the wonderful presentation. I like the way you had given the examples. Second, you had plotted various comparison scenarios, like you had given the scenario of decentralized procurement versus the centralized procurements, wherein you have given the examples within the commercial department, where you had given the example for sourcing versus the buy decisions which you need to take into considerations. And also you had given the occasions where traditional, I mean, seeking quotations does not makes
Correct.
relevant in today's situation. And very rightly said, as I mentioned in my opening remarks, and you have beautifully pointed out with two examples. One, what are the components goes into that, and how can you relate to that component pricing with that of the actual pricing in the market. And you also had mentioned beautifully the, I mean, linking of the budgetary controls to that of the PRs, PR in that way. So it was an amazing session, Gaurav. I think full credit goes to you. You have, I mean, the level of the information what you put on the slide gives you the amount of experience and amount of the finesse which you have it in the subject. Thank you, Gaurav. I think with this, I'll just check if there is any more questions. No questions. And with this positive note, I think we will close the session. Thank you so much, all the viewers. I'll thank ICI for organizing this session, and over to the organizers. Thank you.